Welcome to Western Perspective, I'm Grace Harrington. Homelessness Week 2023 is a time to raise awareness of people experiencing homelessness and sleeping rough within our community. The theme this year is It's Time to End Homelessness. Shelter WA has led a variety of activities this week to help showcase the effects of homelessness and to shine a light on the wonderful service providers who are going above and beyond to support those in need. We spoke with Perth Lord Mayor candidate Sandy Angie about Homelessness Week and some of the potential solutions to homelessness within the Perth community. Sandy, we're here with you today during Homelessness Week here in Perth. Could you tell me a little bit about what's been happening around the city this week with Homelessness Week?
Yeah, so this week's Homelessness Week across the country, and the theme is It's Time to End Homelessness. So really it's a time for us to all think about what we can all do as a community through all levels of government and through the community as well on how we can improve the homelessness situation in Perth and across the country. So Shelter WA has held a number of sessions over the week, as have other organisations. I'm looking forward to their wrap-up event tomorrow afternoon in the city to hear about all the work they've been doing this week. So yeah, it's a large program of events.
That's wonderful, and I believe that Shelter were able to secure $60,000 worth of funding to put towards different communities and them being able to showcase the different issues and potential solutions to homelessness. Can you explain a little bit better about what some of the activities that have been going on are?
Yeah, so I guess one thing from a City of Perth perspective that we've run for the last couple of years was this idea of a safe night space. So what a safe night space is, it's an interim solution. So obviously the only way to solve homelessness is through more homes. You know, obviously with the current, affordability crisis in housing and rental crisis, we don't have enough homes. And so, obviously the state government is working hard to deliver more homes to make them available to people. But in the interim, what we need is interim accommodation to get people off the streets. And so Safe Night Space was one of the City of Perth initiatives to do that. And that's successfully taken over 240 women off the street and into homes.
How exactly has the Safe Night Space been able to do that? What are these homes that it's taken women into?
Yeah, so the Safe Night Space, as I said, it's not a home. It's a place where people can go to get assistance to be transitioned into a home. So through various support services and different community organisations, they can then assist these people into a home. So in the City of Perth, as I said, we've had this the last couple of years, this initiative. It is currently scheduled to close at the end of the year, but the administration is looking at how can we do this perhaps in another location, in another format, to keep it going, to help people off the street and into a home.
It seems really wonderful. I read that it's supported about 795 women in one way or another, which is pretty incredible. What might this alternate format be going forward?
Yeah, so we've got the City of Perth administration looking at that now, but obviously, the idea is to help people off the street and into a new home and provide them with a safe place to sleep. It's only for a number of nights while we assist them. But, that alternate format, I guess, looking at other precedents of what other communities are doing. And, the aim is to, I guess, help people, but also minimise the impact on the surrounding area. So, in this situation, one of the reasons it's closing at the end of the year is there was some impacts for neighbouring residences. So how can we minimise that in a new model going forward? But it's an initiative that has proven to help people off the street. So something that we definitely need to look at how we can do that in another way.
And I see that you plan throughout your campaign, and should you be successful at the election, you plan to work with the state government and the community to explore more diverse and appropriate accommodation options. I guess it's $1 million question, how can we end homelessness? It's not going to happen overnight, especially with the rising cost of living, but what are some other housing options that you see as viable?
Yeah, so I guess the idea is that everyone needs to play their role in ending homelessness. So the idea is if the city can help support the issue and play its part, and encourage other local governments to do the same, so that the load is shared across the community. So I think that that's a key part of the message that I have, is that, you know, by the city playing its part and encouraging, setting a precedent for other local governments to do the same, so we all share the load. In terms of affordable housing, you know, earlier this year, the City of Perth announced incentives to encourage more development in the CBD district, the part of our city. You know, could we extend these incentives to other parts of our city, in particular, for example, West Perth or Northbridge? We already have student accommodation in Northbridge and areas Stirling Street and Pearce Street. What incentives could we provide to get more accommodation and different forms? Build to rent, co-living options, so we have a diversity of housing and choice.
Wonderful. And finally, locally, especially with the Rockingham by-election and your campaign now, homelessness seems to be the word on everyone's lips. Do you think that with the publicity the local homelessness issue has been getting, have you seen a greater response and greater involvement in Homelessness Week this year?
Yeah, I think it's something I know from when I stood for election in 2020. It was a big topic of conversation, and it's just not going away. It's obviously challenges in Perth, across the country and around the world, and it's something that, it's a time on Homelessness Week or during Homelessness Week to think about what we could do, but something that we need to be focused on every day. And I guess, that's another part of my campaign platform is, full-term Lord Mayor. It's something that needs our constant focus and constant attention of the city. It's not a problem. It's a complex problem. It's not going to be a problem that's solved overnight, but it's something that we have to work on continuously.
And you said that there will be an event to wrap up the week tomorrow night, is that correct?
Oh, so it's at Shelter WA tomorrow afternoon. It's a presentation of some of the work they've been doing. So if people are interested, they can just log on to Shelter WA and on the website, and it's free ticket to go along and see the presentations of the last day of Homelessness Week in Perth.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, Sandy.
Your time.
That was Sandy Angie. You can read more of our weekly premium stories now on WAMN Extra News Club, supporting independent local news and keeping democracy strong. And now, here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks very much for your time. A lot of us were puzzled when the West Australian government made a decision without consultation to decide to build the new Women and Children's Hospital down at the Fiona Stanley Murdoch precinct, and not, as had long been planned for, at the QE2 site. The main objection of clinicians is that it's a lot more complicated than it looks to duplicate the necessary paediatric services of the Children's Hospital and make them available for the time that they're going to be needed for babies who are acutely unwell when they're born down at Murdoch. Now, it may seem simple to get a few extra staff, but in fact you need entire teams, you need facilities that are dedicated for dealing with the very unwell children in those circumstances. And these may be rare situations that they're required. So it's not possible to have them standing by in two locations in a city the size of Perth on a sustainable basis. And there's been no convincing explanation in the business case put forward last week, which largely focused on the cost and the timing and the difficulty of building at the QE2 site. Of course, it's also going to be difficult to build at the Fiona Stanley site. It's a very busy site indeed. So wherever it's done, they're going to have to cope with all of the disruption and all of the problems of building what is going to be an important investment for Western Australia, but a shame that the decision was made without consultation, it seems, of any significant kind with the medical or the midwifery or the patient community, in order to come to an understanding of the nuance of the detail that had been put into the planning in the original location. And on a broader level, along with the abandonment of the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act, because that seems to be unworkable, it seems as though this government's having real problems in making considered, timely decisions on things that are going to be implemented properly and work properly. And we've faced that for a long time in the areas of ambulance ramping and so on, which they seem to have just now expect the public to accept is part of being a public patient, is that you, or a severely ill patient, is you just have to wait. And in a rich state like ours that has the resource and should have the wherewithal to organise these things properly, that's just not good enough for the vulnerable patients of our community, not good enough for those people who are waiting in line for elective surgery. And hopefully this government, having got a bit of a fright in recent polls, might start to show some humility and be a lot better at consulting with the people who are affected by such massive decisions. Thanks very much for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and that's Western Perspective for this week. Until next Sunday evening, it's back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Grace. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly, Grace, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.